Welcome to Senior Stay or Go TV, a show to educate, entertain, and advocate on behalf of our aging adults. We are here to provide you the best information for your quality of life.
Welcome to Senior Stay or Go. Today we have Roberta Robinson with the Robinson and Wilson Law and Attorney Group in Rancho Bernardo.
Right.
They focus on estates, trusts, and probate, and we welcome you and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Roberta, thank you for being here today. I know Daniel's busy.
That's right.
Wife is expecting their third child, so congratulations.
Oh, that's going to go on the news here. All right.
Was that public information?
It is now. No, it is.
Okay. I forgot to ask about that. I apologize. Anyway, on that note, we're talking about estates, trusts, and probates today.
Right.
And one of the things we want to start out with is Patty and I work, as you know, with seniors and their families, and we constantly hear about the issues of the daughter or the sister moving in with the elder parent or the sister to be the caregiver. And that brings up all kinds of arrangement issues from estate planning. So can you help those people out there understand what they're in for?
All right. Well, I'll just tell some stories.
Yeah.
That always helps.
So sometimes there is an aging parent in the home, and there is a child or a child and their family willing to move in and take care of the aging parent, especially in beautiful San Diego, if you see where I'm going with this. So it could be a child coming from back east, it could be a local child, and everything sounds great, and then I get a call from the other child, the sibling, telling me this may not be fair to mom or dad, my brother isn't paying any rent, the whole family is there eating, mom or dad is paying for everything, and it's a problem, at least for that sibling and maybe for the estate if there aren't enough funds. So the number one problem we run into is the decision maker is still mom or dad, and mom or dad may have some difficulty dealing with the child who's moved in. And no matter how old people get, they want to take care of their children, and sometimes we see dependent adult children being taken care of, and mom or dad is kind of a codependent and can't break the cycle of kind of being used, at least in the eyes of the other child. And so that's a difficult thing. So sometimes we'll have a meeting with the parent and the child who's objecting to this arrangement. And what I usually do is kick that child out of the office because I have to talk to the parent alone. What is it that they want to do? And I've had a lot of parents confide in me that they understand that it might not be a fair arrangement and it might not be fair to the other child, but they need help and they need to be taken care of, and they don't want their other child to get mad at them. And even if they agree that the plan's not working and maybe there should be a change, lots of times once they leave the office, they're not willing to make the change. So I don't have a magic cure for that kind of situation. And I'm going to kind of interview you maybe for advice. Have you found a way to talk with that dependent child or the parent?
Well, it is difficult. It's definitely difficult. But what we try to say is if you're going to find yourself in that situation, make some kind of arrangement that everybody's involved in the decision before it just happens.
Right.
If that's at all possible.
Right.
I mean, actually a business rental agreement. You know,
having a written agreement is great. It should be done that way.
And say based on implied rent of $1,500 a month.
Right.
And if it goes on for 3 years, that's X amount of dollars.
Right.
That will get subtracted from.
That's right. And how do you catch it before it's already happened?
By the hard part.
That's the hard part.
When they come to the lawyer, it's already happened.
Well, when they come to us, it's really already happened because now mom has passed away or they moved to a senior community and now everybody is that SOB.
Right. So, gosh, I wish I was here with the magic cure to that, maybe just to educate people before you get in that situation. If you're even thinking about having a child or a relative come live with you, think about entering into really a lease agreement or a rental agreement. And I try to tell people, think about what can go wrong. That's, that's what the lawyer's thinking. We're going, but in our head, we're going, oh my gosh, what if this, what if that? And it's hard when you're the person you want everything to work out. You don't want to think about what could go wrong, but you have to think about what could go wrong to prevent a crisis. So the things that could go wrong are the child doesn't want to leave. I've got one right now where the child's children are in the San Diego schools. The child's visiting from the East Coast. So as grandma, do you want to kick out your grandchildren who are already enrolled in school? Let's talk about it before it happens. Financially, is that child going to contribute to the household? Because there are expenses from being there. So to think about it before it's happened, even if you have to bring in a third party, be it a lawyer, be it a realtor, be it a friend, to have that conversation, it's an important thing, and get it in writing before it's a crisis.
And I thank you. Thank you for
Really?
helping us.
You run into this a lot?
Well, because then we get the call to sell the home, and we're going, the child is not moving out. Well, the sibling thinks that their brother or sister is going to move out of the home.
Right.
And be very cooperative.
And be very cooperative, because they lived there for
doesn't happen very often.
They lived there for 5 or 10 years, taking care of mom or dad.
And the child could be a senior. The child could be 60 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's an entitlement thing that's going on now.
Right.
Well, I gave up my career.
Yes.
Or I gave up this.
Yes.
I'm entitled.
Or I moved here from the East Coast to do this.
To poor San Diego. Yes.
So yeah, thank you. I mean, and again, if having the conversation with, hey, have you ever had issues with partners or siblings before? Well, yes or no. Hopefully, they're honest to say yes. So why don't we do an ounce of prevention
ahead of time?
Right.
So, thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
we appreciate that.
We've even had a situation where this is kind of related, where I had a cousin who was trustee of a trust for a cousin who was kind of dependent and couldn't function on his own, and he moved into the house that was part of the trust. Parents had already died, and she just wanted to get in to do repairs because they were getting letters from the county that certain things need to be done, and he had mental health issues and he wouldn't let anybody in. So now the house is falling into disrepair. How did it finally get solved? We said, what does the cousin want? He wants a place to live. All right, trustee, why don't you arrange someplace else? Pay his rent for a period of months. Help him to move. And that was one thing that it worked in that case. Help that person find another residence.
Not always easy.
Not easy. You asked me a hard question.
Well, hopefully it will get easier.
Okay.
What about seniors who feel like, oh my gosh, am I going to outlive my money? Should I just rent a room in my home?
Right.
And they go on Craigslist and they say, room available. And then they don't really know what questions to ask when they're interviewing people.
Right. And I haven't seen that yet much, but I think in our baby boomer generation, we're going to start seeing a lot of that, and sharing of the household. So it's just like, I think, leasing to an outside party. You really want a credit report. You want a written lease for sure. You want to think of what can go wrong, in your head. What can go wrong? What if they don't pay? What if they become incapacitated? Who do you contact? Do they have a power of attorney they've given to anybody to make some decisions? So it's just like renting to an outside party. You have to think about, are they financially worthy? Can they keep it up? And what if something happens to them?
Right.
And should you have extra insurance to cover what if they're injured in the home? What if, I don't know, they start a fire?
Or should you even have them fingerprinted?
Ooh, fingerprinted. So here, I would ask a professional property manager, and you may be more familiar than I do. I know they run credit reports. Do they actually?
Background checks.
Do they do background checks?
They can. I mean, you can always pay for it.
Yeah, and you could always ask for references, even though, do you know the references? So you're bringing in an outside person, and I bet we're going to see more and more of this. Do you see this already?
We see some of it. We don't see it a lot yet, but like you, I think we are going to see a lot more of it because, I mean, and we're going to continue to see it more and more because there's a lot of young people today that in order to afford to purchase a home, they have to have somebody renting a room in their home to help pay the mortgage.
Right.
So it's already being done by the younger generation.
Right.
But it's a generation that obviously is younger, healthier, may not have as many concerns to be worried about as an aging adult would have. But you know, things could happen even to a young person, you never know. But
that's right.
You see a lot of that today in the younger generation to be able to afford to make their mortgage payment.
Right. And with our seniors and I call them the seniors.
Right. There's
the senior seniors.
You're not 60. 65 is not
that's
senior.
Nothing.
85.
Nothing. So 85, and is this a tenant going to ingratiate themselves? And you're going to say, well, could you help me pay my bills? Oh, here's my checkbook. Could you help me sign my checks? It's just an opportune time for undue influence. Yes.
Well, and I think also the other reason why we may see more of it is because as California just created the law where you can build a casita on your property much easier than you could in the past to try and eliminate the housing crisis. You're gonna. I mean, my husband's already thought about, well, we could put this little casita here, and we can live there, and somebody else can live in the house and take care of us. And I'm like,
Are you seeing people actually building these?
It's going to happen.
You're seeing more and more of it.
I need to read up on this law.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to circle back. So let's say there's another scenario where let's say there's only one daughter, there's only one child, and the daughter's moving in. And mom is alive, and mom says, I'm going to put, dear daughter, I'm going to put your name on title for this home I've owned for 50 years.
Right.
What are the consequences of that?
All right. So we see that, especially when there's only one child, and people think, why don't I make this easy? Why don't I put the property in joint tenancy, and if I die, it'll go to my daughter, no probate, everything's nice. And if there are no problems, yes, it works rather well. But here are the issues. Once you put that person on title, if they get into financial trouble or they are sued, now your home that you've had for 50 years is exposed to the claims of their creditors. And I would say, oh, my daughter, she's a responsible person. She'll never get in this kind of trouble. But there are automobile accidents. And there could be quite a judgment against somebody who is in an automobile accident. Or what if your daughter is a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer and could be sued for some sort of negligence? So be very careful. I know my dad said this to me. I'm just going to put your name on everything. I go, stop!
Stop the presses.
Don't do that. And so that person, the way to deal with it is really to have a trust where the asset is put in the trust. And the beneficiary could be the daughter, so no probate. The daughter could even be successor trustee. So if I become incapacitated, my daughter can take over. But the trust is not exposed to the claims of her creditors. Then I'm going to tell you one story because, boy, do I have stories and stories to tell you. I had a parent who did add a child. Everything was great for decades. And then they had a falling out. And I said, and she said, well, I'm going to change this, and I want my house back, and I'm going to make a different plan entirely. And I said, well, you have to get your daughter's signature. You have to get your daughter to deed the property back to you. And it was like, huh. And I said, can you tell your daughter that? Oh, no, I don't speak to my daughter. So we sent a letter to the daughter saying, we need you to sign this deed to give it back to mom so she can do, and we thought, well, we don't know, Hail Mary, is this going to work or not? And months later, the deed came in signed. And
really?
Yes, and we recorded it, and we thought, wow, didn't think that would work.
Well, also, isn't there, and it gets very tax-oriented, but isn't there, if it's joint tenancy, the step-up in basis issue in terms of capital gain, and it's complicated,
that's right.
The capital gains issue.
All right, so now we get to taxes. I love taxes. So if you add your child as a joint tenant for convenience, and you keep living there, have you made what we call a completed gift? Well, if you've retained possession of that house, you're still living there. Even if it's rented, you're getting all the rent. You've really retained that asset. And for tax purposes, that is not a completed gift. It really does belong to you. And at your death, it is part of your estate, and it gets the new basis, which means all capital gain disappears, and your heirs get a new starting point to calculate gain. So it's not a completed gift. But there are situations where people inadvertently gift things away, and then we do have problems.
So that leads us to the next question. What happens when, real estate in San Diego is not inexpensive, and mom or dad or grandma and grandpa decide that, okay, I'm going to be leaving this to you when I'm gone, so why don't I just give it to you now so you can buy a home?
Oh, yeah. So we do run into that. I'm going to give it to you now, or I'm going to sell it to you now. So the lifetime transfer. So if I have this home, and let's say I want to downsize, and I'm going to sell it to my grandchild, because now remember, we have seniors who are doing deals with their grandchildren. It's something. And I'm going to sell it to my wonderful grandson who's just getting married. He's going to start a home, and he's going to raise his family in my house. This is wonderful. And I'm going to take the money now, and I'm going to invest in maybe a residential retirement facility, and they can take care of me. This is going to work out great. So
You've heard this before.
no, I've heard this many, many times. I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. So in my head, I'm going, wait a minute. So could work out great. So I say to my client, remember, what is your basis? What did you pay for this property? Or if you inherited it, what was it worth at that time? And what's it worth now? And if you're making a profit, that's capital gain. And if you're a single person, you can have $250,000 worth of gain, which sounds huge in Wisconsin. And in California, that's a modest number, $250,000 worth of gain. Well, if that's all I've got that much profit, I can receive that much profit without income tax, without tax on gain. And if it's a husband and wife, you've got two of those, so $500,000 of profit. But if I'm over that, let's say I have a really nice home, I've owned it for quite a long time, I've got a very low basis. In that case, I may have capital gain on the profit. And if instead I lease it to my grandson and own it until my death, but the house does go to my grandson at my death, it gets that new basis. We could even give him a lease with an option to buy. There are all kinds of things that could happen. So we're very careful about, whoa, 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 if there's going to be a sale, let's think through what are we doing.
When to do it.
The key is not to think irrationally. Call you and come and see you.
Well, it's interesting. It's there are things we know, there are things we don't know, and there are things we don't know that we don't know. And even lawyers, we don't, if I need advice about something else, a personal injury or who knows what, I'll go to a lawyer that does that kind of law, because I don't even know what I don't know. In fact, yesterday I had to refer something to an elder law specialist. I don't even know certain provisions in a contract that's the person to go to. So you need to ask a lawyer, a CPA. You see your CPA every year. And that's a good starting point, to ask your CPA. I'm thinking about doing this. Yeah.
Well, and we're a little short on time, but I want to address one issue that Patty and I focus we get put in front of us all the time, is mom and dad are alive, they're moving to a senior community, and it's in a trust. And
right.
Mom and dad are the trustees of their trust.
Right.
And the son calls us, or the daughter calls us and says, Mom and Dad want me to sell the home for them. They gave me power of attorney.
All right.
Patty and I go, no big deal. not gonna. And they go, well, what do you know? And so can you please tell the audience that a power of attorney given to your son or your daughter to sell a home,
when they're still the trustees of the trust.
When the parents are still the trustees.
That's right. So I say there's apples and oranges. And the trust it's going to be the apple or the orange. Okay, let's make it the apple. So the assets that are in the apple that are in the trust are controlled by the trust. The assets that are the oranges, the other assets that are out here outside of the trust, like retirement plans, bank accounts, certain things may be outside the trust. That power of attorney controls the oranges, but not what's inside the trust. So inside the trust, the parents still have to sign. Even though the child could be involved in coordinating it, but the parent has to sign unless they resign as trustee, which they could do, or appoint their child to be a co-trustee with the power to sign independently. Although I've got to tell you, title companies may
don't
say,
like that.
We need everybody's signature if we're going to insure this. And you could blame it on the title company. Sorry to tell you this.
Well,
we'll go through title.
Try to tell a buyer that we can't close escrow because
yes,
they don't like to hear those kind of things.
Yes.
So again, the idea is that if mom or dad are trustees of their trust and they're competent,
yes,
they have to resign as the trustee of their trust.
Or sign. What's wrong with mom and dad signing and
Right.
knowing what the deal is?
Right.
And it's an inconvenience to the child. They have to go and visit mom and dad.
There
Or
you
talk
go.
to mom and dad, yes.
One last one.
One last one. So let's say mom and dad pass away and I'm the successor trustee to the trust. How soon can I sell that home? Some people like to get everything done right away. Some people like to hold off and let the dust settle for a little bit. What do you usually recommend to your client?
Well, legally, when can the trustee sell the home is as soon as they have a certified death certificate.
Okay.
So that could be 10 days.
Right.
So it really could go up for sale very easily. Realistically, when should it be sold? So I'm going to say I'm advising you as trustee, and let's say you've got 3 siblings. I'm just making it up, and they're going to share in the proceeds. I need to protect you, the trustee, against what they may complain about later. So I'm going to say, trustee, the first thing we have to do is send out something called the notification by trustee, which is a California law saying that when a trust becomes irrevocable, when the parent dies, we have to send a notice to all the beneficiaries and all the heirs that they have a right to see a copy of the trust. And they have up to 120 days to contest the trust, to say there's something wrong in the trust. So boom, give me their names and addresses. I'm going to send that out right away, and I'll probably send it with a copy of the trust, just so they see it right away. And then we're going to talk again.
Now, if you send it, I don't mean to interrupt,
Go
but
ahead.
if you send it with the trust, does that 120 days begin the minute you send it with the trust?
The
and they
minute you
receive it?
send it with the trust, because
Okay.
if you don't send the trust,
Then you have to wait to
they
start.
can wait till the last day and then ask for a copy of the trust on the 119th day, and then you have to send it to them and wait another 60 days.
Okay.
So let's just get them the trust. And then we're going to go back to the sale of the house, and we're going to talk about what are you going to sell it for, who are you selling it to. We don't want people complaining later that you didn't sell it for enough or it just wasn't right. So we're going to have a talk. I'm going to say, talk to your realtor about what is this house worth. Will it be on the MLS? It definitely needs to be on the MLS for your protection.
For visibility.
For visibility. And what are we going to sell it for? And then if you could please tell me at least 2 weeks, but please tell me 30 days before you sell the property, or as soon as you get an offer, what are you going to sell it for? Who is it to? What's the commission? What's the sales price? What are the terms of the deal? And I will send a notice of proposed action, which is a mouthful. We call it NOPAs. I'm going to send a notice of proposed action to all those beneficiaries saying, here's the deal. And I'm actually going to ask them, would they please sign the opposite side, which is the consent form, or at least call and ask you, do you have questions? Is there anything they're not happy with? But if we can get them to sign the consent and send it back, you're protected as soon as you have that. If they don't sign the consent, we have to wait 2 weeks, and then in theory, that's too late to object. But as my son Danny has been telling me for a couple of days now, they could actually object until the day the sale closes, which is not making me happy.
No,
so I said, let's
not
get
gonna make me
everybody.
happy either.
Yeah, let's get them to sign the consent. We're not going to force them, but we're going to answer all their questions so they know it's a fair deal and it's being sold on the market for fair market value.
So even though the NOPA's gone out, the time frame's expired, everybody's signed off, there could still be an issue
If
until
they've consented,
no.
done.
Okay.
And that's a good thing to get people
Right.
to consent.
Right.
The takeaway from all this is consult your legal advisor. Call Roberta Robinson or Daniel Wilson for some advice on this, because if you have siblings,
Even more so.
get a private fiduciary or a bank trust officer, and don't take on the job yourself. Is always my advice too. But that's
It makes our lives easier.
it makes our life easier.
Yeah, well.
But it's people think they want to take this role on because that's what mom and dad want, and we're all telling you, I think we all agree that it is a big job, has a lot of pitfalls, and a lot of legal issues.
Right, and they've seen the road ahead. And if it's the first time you've done it, second time you've done it, you haven't run into so many obstacles to know what to prevent and what to kind of go around.
And Roberta has done this for a couple years.
40 years. I'm going to my University of San Diego 40th reunion this month.
I wasn't going to say, okay, you said that too. So on both that, Daniel, your wife, congratulations. And so I think you've heard all the stories.
Lots and lots of stories to anticipate. And I keep telling this to Daniel, you only know the life that you came from. And it's hard to realize that people are really different and really have different values and what they will do and won't do. And it's hard to anticipate until you've run into it.
Right. Well, we thank you, Roberta. We've run long, but we thank you so
sorry.
much. No. We could go on for days on this topic because we're trying to help people not make the mistakes. And that's what really the goal of this is all about. So we appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
So thank you, everybody. Stay tuned for more Senior Stay or Go.